and welcome to the Jacksonville Sheriff Debate, co-hosted by the Jacksonville Bar Association and Jacksonville Today. You can subscribe to the weekday Jacksonville Today newsletter at jaxtoday.org. I'm Jax Today editor Jessica Palumbo, and it is my privilege to welcome you tonight, whether you're joining us here in person or live streaming from home. Thank you so much to both candidates for being here this evening. By a happy coincidence, I've been informed that today is United Nations International Day of Democracy, and that's what tonight is all about, allowing voters to hear directly from the candidates so you can decide. With a few words before we get started, here's Jax Bar Association President Fraz Ahmed.
Thank you, Jessica. Again, my name is Fraz Ahmed, president of the Jacksonville Bar Association. We recently just celebrated our 125th anniversary of the Jacksonville Bar Association, and as part of serving the community, we are co-hosting this event with Jax Today. And part of the services we provide, just to name a few, we partner with the local government in providing foreclosure eviction assistance. We host forums such as this tonight. We also offer legal assistance, referral services for those in need in our community. So I want to just thank Jax Today for partnering with us to co-host this event. And I want to also thank our candidates, Lakeisha Burton and TK Waters. Thank you so much for putting this on for our community on such an important, to discuss such important issues. So with that, I will turn it over to Rick Anderson with Jax Today.
Well, thank you, Fraz, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's debate. I'd like to remind everyone in our studio audience that this event is being live streamed, so please refrain from applauding or booing as the candidates respond. Our candidates tonight have agreed to the following rules. Each will be given up to 2 minutes to respond to each question, and the two will alternate in answering each question first. Rebuttals of up to 2 minutes in length will be allowed when appropriate. Questions tonight are coming from members of the public, including the live audience. We'll get to those questions in a moment, but first, let me give a short introduction to each of our guests in alphabetical order. Retired JSO Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton has worked in nearly every avenue of law enforcement during her 24-year career with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, including 18 in a supervisory role. Among her duties, she commanded JSO initiatives aimed at targeting violent offenders and building community relations. TK Waters joined the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in 1991 as a correctional officer and graduated from the Police Academy 2 years later. He then rose through the ranks, reaching the position of Chief of Investigations. His over 30 years of experience includes work in prevention, intervention, and enforcement. With that, let's get started. Ms. Burton won a coin toss and will give her opening statement first.
Thank you. Good evening. I first want to thank all of the hosts for making this happen for us tonight. Thank all of you for coming. My campaign is about change. We cannot continue to do things the same way because they have not worked. My opponent and I, we see from a different lens and have a different perspective about how we should be addressing violent crime in our city and how we should be building trust with members of our community. We have a violent crime problem in our city, and my opponent has been over the violent crime unit for 7 years. He's taken police officers off the streets. He's spent millions of dollars in technology, millions of dollars in overtime, to the tune of over $500 million. His strategies have failed. Violent crime is up by 19%. We continue to be the murder capital of Florida. Now my opponent wants to be promoted. What job promotes poor performance? We must demand excellence. I'll change how we do things and make things better for all of us. Strong partnerships with our community, along with enforcement, those two are important if we are going to reduce crime in our city and make neighborhoods safe all over our city. I have a long career of having a proven record of building community and putting criminals in jail, and I'm ready to get to work as your next sheriff. Thank you.
Mr. Waters, your opening statement.
Thank you. I also appreciate the Jax Bar and WJCT for allowing us to be here tonight. My name is TK Waters, of course. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have 3 children. I have 4 grandchildren, and I am very invested in the city of Jacksonville. As my opponent stated, I've worked really hard throughout my career to do many different things beyond just a police athletic league, but quite a few things. Some of that being finishing up my career in the investigations division as the division chief. We finished last year with a 78% clearance rate in homicides in our city, and that's not all. We have a lot of improvement to do and a lot of work to do along the way. I am a big believer in engaging our community. As a matter of fact, some of the things that I created within the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office were specifically just doing just that, to go out with us and work on the issue of violent crime. We have a lot of work to do. There's no denying that. We see ourselves going in the right direction, contrary to what you hear, and I just found out this morning that we are actually down 2% in crime citywide. So we are working and we are going in the right direction, but there's quite a bit of work to do. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. I'll tell you this also. This is about the qualifications of each candidate. And throughout my career, I've spent a long time doing a lot of different things, whether it be narcotics work, whether it be task force work, whether it be a supervisor of the year with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, just a lot of different things that we've been able to accomplish, and we will continue to do that and move forward and work hard with our community to see an end to a violent crime problem in our city.
Thank you both. Now let's get to our questions. Mr. Waters won a separate coin toss and will answer the first question first, after which we'll alternate. First question is, if I'm a voter, and I am, how should I be evaluating the candidates for sheriff? What makes someone a good sheriff?
Well, I think it's the ability to communicate with the community and the desire to go out and work with the community, the desire to stand up and be forward-facing and be willing to be the voice that the community speaks to. See, the only reason that you can hold a job as a sheriff in Jacksonville is if you hire me to do so. I have to build that trust with you. I have to help you to understand who I am, where I come from, the experience that I have, which is quite a bit. 31 years. I started with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for one reason and one reason only. I saw a loved one get murdered. I didn't want it to happen to anyone else, so I wanted to make sure that I worked as hard as I can every single day to be able to do that. So I'll tell you, it's very important to be able to build those relationships and be able to be transparent and work with our community to make sure we can see some real significant changes within our agency or within the agency that we used to work for.
Ms. Burden, same question, please.
Thank you. So I have overcome insurmountable challenges in my young life that made me stronger as a woman, as a mother, and as a leader. And I believe that my personal and professional experiences have prepared me to be your next sheriff. I have proudly served you for 24 years. 18 of those 24 years, I have been in a leadership role. I have earned every rank available, sergeant and lieutenant. Nobody's given me anything in this organization. I earned my master's degree in criminal justice. I was the first female executive director to run the Police Athletic League, which is JSO's signature nonprofit. And I was appointed to the sheriff's staff as an assistant chief, in which I was over our community engagement unit for 2 years, and also as a zone commander for 2 years. And I'm proud to have had the highest reduction of crime last year compared to any other zone in our city. We have a violent crime problem in this city. And my opponent has had the most money, the people, and technology, and he didn't get the job done. We cannot continue to arrest our way out of the issue. We have to build trust. We have to look at our violent crime problem from a different perspective. That perspective is one that will focus on education, prevention, and intervention. And at the end of the day, none of that matters until we address the culture of this police department. What I did was invest in my police officers And in turn, we invested in our community. And then we work with our community to address crime. And that's what you can expect from me as your next sheriff, to bring people together to address our violent crime once and for all. Aren't we tired of being the murder capital of Florida? I am.
Mr. Waters, would you care to rebut?
Sure. So factually speaking, Jacksonville is a consolidated city, and I want you to understand this because it's very important. That title of murder capital of Florida is carried because we're consolidated. See, we combine our city numbers and our county numbers, where many other cities and counties in Florida, actually none of them, do that. So that number is different. But when I tell you that, there's no, again, I said there's no denying that there's issues that we have to deal with and that we're working toward every single day. And I'll tell you this, we talk about the amount of money and the $500 million or $500,000 that, or $500 million or something that my opponent says. The money that we were given was used to build a team of people to go out and individually every single day, every Thursday I would say, and knock on doors of individuals and young men in our community that were going to kill someone or find themselves deceased from another end of a firearm or of a bullet. Now, if you say that's not worth doing, I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you if there's one guy that's killed 5 people and we take him off the street, that's improving. If there's one guy that's shot 10 and missed, that's an improvement. Now we have to continue to work. I don't quit. I never quit. I worked in units that you can't quit. Our community expects us to continue to work and continue to work very hard at what we do. I'm passionate about this issue because I've been working in it for so long. And I love every second of it because I love this community and I care about what happens here. But factually speaking, there's a real concerted effort that's taking place, and we will make changes and do something better to continue to move forward to see ourselves improve.
Okay, let's move on to a question that came from our studio audience tonight, and in alternating fashion, Ms. Burton, this will be for you. Will you require your appointed staff to live within Duval County?
So that's a great question. I know that over the last few months that has been trending in the media. And what I could tell you, the most important thing is to focus on recruitment and retainment right now. So I think that's what our focus needs to be about. It's a very difficult job right now. So what we're having a hard time doing across the country is recruiting, getting police officers to want to be in this role. So I think that as a sheriff, we have to prioritize what that looked like and come up with different incentives, perhaps, to look at getting officers to stay in our city. So I just think that that's not the high priority for me, especially when you look at the violent crime that we all are faced with every single day. I heard my opponent talking about, the crime, the numbers are not right, but right now we are trending right now and look like we're gonna hit 120 murders. So I think that we have to really put priorities in place and come up with a better plan to address our violent crime. So that will be my #1 goal, to address our violent crime in the city.
Right. Mr. Waters, same question.
Sure. So I don't know how you can forecast how many murders we're going to have, but we'll talk about that in just a second. I would not require my appointed staff or any staff member to live in Duval County. I think there's a big downside to doing that, and the reason I say that is because our police officers come from a lot of different areas, a lot of metropolitan areas, a lot of smaller areas around our city. And I think we lose our ability to recruit, and we lose out on some very talented candidates if we start doing that. And coming to and from work, they are responsible to make sure that they answer for calls for service when they're to and from work. But I think it's important to not shrink that pool. A big goal of mine is we've always worked with less people in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. For my 31 years that I've been here, we've always been low. When I started in corrections, we were under a federal mandate to staff corrections. Corrections officers right now have to work extra shifts and work their days off because we don't have enough people there. Do I want to shrink that by saying you have to live in this county? I don't want to do that. What I want to do is take the very best talent from around us and make sure they can come here and work. And if they have to travel at home in a neighboring county, then we'll have to deal with that. But right now, officers pay a stipend to live out of county, and we'll make sure we do that. But I want to make sure that we keep our pool large so that we can hire the best and the brightest.
Ms. Burton, anything to add to that?
No.
Rebuttal? Okay, let's move on to another question. The death of George Floyd brought social justice into the spotlight in this country. Do you think the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office should change the way it interacts with lower income and minority communities? Mr. Waters, you're first now.
I think it's the responsibility of every policeman in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office to be extremely professional. So what I want to do, one of the first things, is I want to build an organization, starting with our police academy, to come in and teach our academy staff about professionalism, service. I want to be a service-minded organization. The S in service doesn't stand for Superman. It stands for a servant of our community. And every block of instruction will be built upon service and how we service our community and how we treat everyone with respect and dignity, even when it comes time for an arrest.
Right. Ms. Burton, same question, please.
So when I think about what you asked, I think about training. First of all, I want you to know that when we had our first protest here, I was the only candidate on the front lines with the troops. So I think that we have to look at our training. We need to invest more in our training, more now than ever before. Our agency is very young. 70% of our officers have 7 years or less on this agency. And I believe that each officer should possess the warrior and guardian mindset. So what I will do as sheriff, I'll make sure that we have more training in person, and get off the online training and have in-person training. So I'll focus more on not only high liability areas such as active shooting and driving and use of force, but we have to focus more on teaching our officers how to engage with those who have mental illnesses. We need to focus more on de-escalation techniques, and also cultural diversity is very important. Our officers need to know how to engage and understand the different cultures that we support or serve. So I think that's important, but also I think what's important is making sure officers know about community policing. That is how we build trust with our communities. So no matter where we are, but we definitely need to focus on those communities that have historically had a distrust for police. So that is going to require to have a sheriff who's going to have those tough conversations. And I can tell you from day one, I've had those conversations. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and make sure our officers know how to engage our diverse community. So that'll be a priority for me.
All right. Mr. Waters, anything to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay. This question kind of dovetails with the last one. Should JSO officers do anything differently when it comes to handling people experiencing a mental health episode? Do you support expanding the co-responder and crisis intervention team programs within the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office? And Ms. Burton, you'd be first here.
Yeah, so I'm a huge advocate for mental health. Actually, the co-responder program that the Sheriff's Office currently has, I was instrumental in making sure that happened. So I think at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're doing that training, and we are partnering with our local stakeholders to help us better do our job. So with the co-responder program, we have licensed mental health counselors actually riding with police officers. So our police officers are trained, but we are not the experts. So I think it behooves us to continue to look at how we can expand that program. It's a win-win for our community. It keeps our officers safe. It keeps the community safe. So I think that more, training and more partnerships is crucial this day and time.
All right. Mr. Waters.
So I agree. Mental health is a serious issue in our community, and the jail should not house more mental health patients than anyone else. I think we have to focus really, really heavily on partnerships. You know, police officers have lanes, and there are certain things that we are equipped to do, and there are certain things that we are not equipped to do. And I am a big supporter of making sure that we have things in place and partnerships in place to make sure that we can effectively and efficiently serve the members of our mental health community.
Next question. Currently, when police-involved shootings occur, they're investigated by JSO and the state attorney's office. Do you support outsourcing these investigations for more impartiality? And do you support civilian review boards in general to review complaints against officers? Why or why not, Mr. Waters?
So I do not support civilian review boards, and I do not support outsourcing our officer-involved shootings, and here's the reason why. Our officer-involved shootings, which I've worked now for several years in my career, are investigated by not just one or two entities, but it's a four-pronged process. There is the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, who are fact gatherers. They gather the information, they gather the facts. They give those over to the State Attorney's Office, who is conducting their own investigation. FDLE will handle any of our evidence that's necessary when it's time for that part of it. And the Medical Examiner's Office is a state-run agency. The medical examiner is a state employee, and that if it's a deadly force situation, the body of that individual is in the custody of the ME's office, and a police officer cannot move, touch, or do anything with an individual. After that process is completely complete, our state attorney, who I have the utmost respect for and confidence in, she holds basically a council of her top-level attorneys. They sit down at a table and they go over every piece of evidence in that case. After they go over that evidence in that case, they make a decision, and our state attorney makes that decision on whether or not the officer is wrong and whether or not they're going to prosecute. And the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office does not have a seat at that table. Civilian review boards is a fact-driven, fact-based, those kind of investigations are fact-driven, fact-based investigations. And they are driven by the facts that we use. Now, the civilian or the public has the right to go in and pick up any information that they want and form however they want to do it, and see that and come to a conclusion and even report that out to people, because it's public information. So those are my answers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Burton, same question, please.
Thank you. My opponent should know all of those details. He's been in that unit for years. So citizen review boards, I am not in favor of citizen review boards. I believe that it's very difficult for the layperson to understand without the knowledge of the law and have never experienced those quick second decisions that police officers have to make to be able to decide what their discipline should be. However, I do believe that the members of our community should have a voice. They should be able to ask those questions and be informed about what's going on. So I do support bringing FDLE in to oversee our officer-involved shootings, not because I don't think our process is good, it's because I have the pulse of the community. Right now in Jacksonville, we have 2 cities in one, and we have half of our community that has a big distrust for the police, and they feel like we are investigating each other. So why not have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement come in? They cover several counties already. I believe that we're one of 5 agencies that they don't investigate our officer-involved shootings, but it's a cost savings for us. It frees up our cold case detectives to work on those old cases. And also, it just gives us an opportunity. I think that this will be the first step to rebuilding that trust in our community, and I think that we need to do that, so I support that.
All right. Mr. Waters, did you hear anything there that you would like to rebut?
Well, I'll just say this. It's very important to understand that unless you've worked with FDLE, the transparency there, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, as it stands, we share every piece of information as quickly as possible. I know that because I sat in the rooms to work through that process. And there's legal things that we have to go through and make sure that the evidence is clear for us to be able to put that out there. So it's very important for us to share that information. I agree 100%, 1,000%. But as your sheriff, I'm elected by you. I'm elected by you to represent you in those rooms. I'm elected by you to be your representative and run the day-to-day operations of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And the buck stops with me. If you have questions, you come see me and we'll talk it through and we'll work it out. I'll show you what you need to show you. You know why I know that? Because I've done it. And I will continue to do it because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Burton, anything to add to that?
Just to add that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is an independent, impartial organization. My question is, in 2020, when you see what the great divide is in our community, what do we have to hide? Why not? My opponent he's going to continue to be status quo. It's time for us to make changes in the city, and it just makes sense to go to the experts. That's what they do, and I think that's what we should do.
Thank you both. This is a subject that's already come up, but next question. Jacksonville's 100th homicide has come earlier than usual this year, so it's no shock that violence in Jacksonville is a major concern of voters. What, in your opinion, is the #1 crime-related issue that needs an immediate plan of action from the next sheriff, and what is your plan to address it? And Ms. Burton, I believe it's your turn.
Thank you. So violent crime is the #1 concern of citizens all over our city. We all see it. Just turn on the news. We all are impacted by it every single day. We see it, we feel it, we hear it, and it's been going on for a long time. It's worse, and it's unacceptable. My opponent has been in charge of the violent crime unit for the last 7 years. He's had the money, the resources, and the technology. He has failed us. He doesn't get a pass. What we have to do is get back to addressing our violent crime problem from a more holistic approach. The approach has been ineffective. So as your sheriff, day one, I'm going to rally our community together. We have to build trust with members of our community because we can't do it alone. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. We can't do it alone, so we have to build trust with our community. And I'll tell you, what we need to do is get bold. We need to be out there on the forefront and arrest these criminals and get these illegal guns off the streets. We need to get these criminals off the streets that have outstanding warrants. But also what I want to do is focus on victims of domestic violence. I want to work with victim advocates. I want to work with our judicial system so we can prevent a lot of the violent crime murders from happening. But also I want to look at bridging a coalition of people from stakeholders all over our city. We've had roughly 15 teenagers murdered in our city. And if you are a mother, you understand right now, we have to do something about it. We can't wait. And if we continue, we can't allow our opponent to have 4 more years. He just had 7 years. If he's not willing to change his approach, we're going to get the same old, and I'm sick of it.
Mr. Waters,
My turn?
your response.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so great. I'm glad she mentioned the holistic approach because that's exactly what's been happening. I went out, knocked on doors of organizations all across the city, built a coalition of people, met a friend of mine, Garland Scott. We began to work together to go to every organization that we can think of that were willing to be a part to work the problem. The problem is being worked. I'll tell you, in 2020, we had 180 homicides. Horrible. 2021, we had 130. Horrible. We need to do better, but I'm telling you, we're going in the right direction. We're going to continue to work hard. We'll continue to knock on individual doors of trigger pullers, because I know they are. And we're going to go to those guys and we're going to let them know that you have an opportunity here. You have an opportunity to change what you're doing, or you're going to face the full brunt of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and you're going to stop what you're doing. We're going to help you if you let us, and we're going to stop you if you make us. And that progress, and that program, and that way of doing things has been 450 houses I knocked on, 800 total today, and these are trigger pullers. These are habitual trigger pullers. I've knocked on those doors. I've seen the injuries. I've seen the death. I'm tired of the death. I don't want to see another body in these streets, much like my opponent. I don't like it. I can't stand it. So I've been working hard to defeat it. I'll tell you this. She came to my office one day to find out what we were doing and how we could help her in Zone 2. She did not even understand what the concept was of what we were doing. So I can understand why she'll sit here and she will make those statements. But the fact of the matter is this. The problem's being worked. We know where the problem is, and we're going to fix the problem and continue to work the problem until we can come to a strong solution. Now, murders are going to happen. This is a big city, but I can tell you this much. I won't quit. I will never quit.
Ms. Burton, would you care to respond to any of that?
Yes, I do. He know who it is. He know where they're at, and he know how to fix it. Well, how many years are we going to give him? Honestly. So my opponent is talking about he's knocked on 450 doors over the last 7 years. I knocked on 450 doors last summer as your zone commander. What my opponent is not telling you is his approach. Picture this. Somebody knocking on your door early in the morning, and you open the door to my opponent with the SWAT team and the gang unit. How would you feel? They're trying to offer resources to people. They don't have active warrants. they don't have criminal charges. That approach just simply does not work. I'm not saying it's not a good program. All I'm saying, at some point, you have to recognize when something's not working and come back to the table and revamp it. Because the only results that we have from this program and him knocking on 450, now it's 800 doors, is a 19% rise in violent crime. It's unacceptable. If you want to continue to be the murder capital of Florida, if you want to be in a city where you can't go to a gas station and be fearful of being shot down, we have to go a different direction. We need a new leader who sees from a different lens and understand that we have to address our violent crime problem from a different approach. The way that we're doing it is not working. We are reactive. My opponent he's lived his whole career in the investigations unit. They do a good job, but they come after the fact. They're reactive. We need to be proactive. We need to invest more on education, and what that is communication. It's training on both sides. We need to invest more on stronger partnerships in our community, and then we need to look at enforcement, because we have to get these criminals off the streets, and I'll tell you, when I'm your sheriff, they'll know that we're gonna come after them.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Waters, you have one more opportunity to respond if you would care to.
I'll say this. My career has been more than just investigations. It's been quite a bit. Where my expertise lies is there. And this approach is more than just the simplification of what it sounds sitting here today. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more people involved, and there's a lot more that goes on when we go and knock on those doors, and when we call them in and we have discussions with them and say, listen, and we feed them when it's done, and we say, listen, this is no longer acceptable. Here's one thing that we really, really need to understand in this community, and that there are bad people in this community. There are criminals in Jacksonville, and they need to be treated like criminals. And we are going to do what's necessary to make sure that we hold criminals accountable and put them where they belong, in prison, if they decide they don't want to do something different. That's just the facts, and that's what we're going to do, and because it's necessary.
Thank you both. And let's move on to another issue that I'm sure is of concern in our audience tonight. Tragic school shootings around the country have parents, school districts, and law enforcement agencies looking for ways to ensure schools are safe. What changes would you make to ensure school safety in Jacksonville? And Mr. Waters, I believe it's your turn to answer first.
So our friend Greg Burton is the chief of the school board police. And Greg, they work hard in collaboration with the sheriff's office to be able to do some things to make sure that our schools are safe. Our schools are our kids are our most precious commodity. They are the most precious things that we have, because we are older, our time is almost done, but they are the most important thing that we have. I think it's really, really important when we start talking about budgets, we talk about money, and we talk about things, that our city invests in our schools. And that means the way that someone enters a school, the way that they have to go through the process of being around. Why is it easier to go into a school than it is to go into a federal courthouse? Why is it easier to go into a school than it is to go into an airport? It's very important that we partner together and do the right things to make sure that our kids are safe. And we will work every single day with our school board police. We will work in concert. We'll communicate. We'll do the things that's necessary. But I really, really believe strongly that we have to address our schools and make sure those doors remain one way in and one way out, and one exit for fire safeties and emergencies. I think that's very important, that we look at the structure of our schools, and then we supplement, we help, we make sure that we're there when our school board needs us and our school board police.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Burton.
I think we can all agree how horrific these incidents have been across the country. So I think it goes back to strong partnerships. The school board police have their own agency. JSO, we have our own agency, so it's about partnerships. So I feel very confident that the school board police department have the resources and the training that they need. So we're going to continue to have those partnerships with them, with training. But also, there's a lot of concern about active shooters in our schools. So although I believe that they are well trained, our officers won't hesitate to go inside any school to eliminate the threat of an active shooter. So I had the experience when JSO was in the schools. I was a school resource officer sergeant, and I can't think of a better job to be able to work to protect our kids while they're there to learn. So I think that we're going to continue to work close, hand in hand with the school board. So, because at the end of the day, the same kids that are in the schools are the same kids that are in our community. So it behooves us to get on one accord and put our egos to the side and start working together so we can address the issues in our community. And we need to keep our kids' safety first.
Thank you. I think we're going to move on, shift gears a little bit. There's growing sentiment that the sheriff race is political, and therefore whoever wins will be beholden to their party. What are your thoughts on those concerns? Ms. Burton, I believe you're first.
Okay, so it is political. Everything is political, you know? So I can just tell you, I got in this race over 16 months ago, and you know, my life changed. And the fact that we have officers who can't openly support the candidate who's not the sheriff's pick is a problem. The fear of retribution, retaliation, and being ostracized because you are not aligning with who the candidate is, the pick. So it certainly is political. Is it right? No. So that's why on this campaign trail, I've been talking about changing a culture of the police department from the inside out. We need a sheriff who's not going to lead from the lens of a political lens or a personal lens, but from the lens of the law and what's right for the people.
Thank you. Mr. Waters.
Yes, sir. So the fact is, I don't even know how to be a politician. I know you have to be a member of a political party when you run for office. My thought processes are what they are. But I'll tell you this much: when it comes to the citizens of this community, it's not Republican or Democrat, it's people. And I'm here because I care about people. And I care about what happens to people. That's why I started this job. I care about that part of it. When it comes to getting in the race, I got in the race probably 6 months, 5-6 months after my opponent did. And you know, being really new to this, I didn't really know a lot about it other than we have to go do debates, we have to do this kind of stuff here. But when it comes down to doing the work, I just want to do the work. And the work of the sheriff is to make sure we take care of this community. We take care of our patrol officers. We take care, because they're important. You know, that's a real big part of what we're doing. We want to make sure that the best and the brightest have the very best and are taken care of so they can go out and do their job the very best. And 76% of those agree with me, because they voted for me. So I do understand that, and I do understand the political nature of all this now that I'm in it and I understand what's happening. But when it comes down to it, I'll tell you this factually. I care about this community. I care about the people in this community. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what side of town you live on. None of that makes a difference to me. I've seen enough death. I've seen my share of it. We want to make sure we can fix that and take care of that and take care of the people of this community.
Ms. Burton, I saw you taking notes. Would you like to say anything else on that topic?
I want to say so much. So again, you got to have a leader who's going to speak the truth. I think when I started this, I said my opponent and I see from a different lens. That's because I say that we have two cities in one, we have two JSOs in one, right? So it is political. And what I want you to know is that nobody chose me, nobody asked me, and nobody selected me to get in this race. I chose this fight. And from day one, I've said that my candidacy for sheriff is not about prestige, it's not about political party, and it's not about power. It is about you, it's about the people. So I have a track record. People that know me in this city know that I have been about the people. I just don't say it. I've been about the people, and it's been prevalent throughout the entire Duval County, and I'm proud of that.
Mr. Waters, you have the floor.
Sure. So when we started this and when this race was beginning, you know, my opponent and I, we both supported the same sheriff. We both supported him the first time, we both supported him the second time, and actually we were both appointed by him. And everyone that's in this crowd that's on his staff were all appointed by him. So we all have the same belief system when it comes to that kind of stuff. Here's the difference between the two of us. The sheriff and the sheriffs around Jacksonville have endorsed me. She asked for his endorsement. She didn't get it. That's the only difference. I'm not Mike Williams. I'm a completely different guy. I'm not Ron DeSantis. I'm not any other sheriff. I'm TK Waters. And I'm here to serve this community because I love it. Period. That's it. That's where it stops for me.
Other communities have adopted civil citations for adults with minor, nonviolent offenses. In Jacksonville, the state attorney offers a post-arrest diversion program for driving with a suspended license. Would you support a pre-arrest civil citations program in Jacksonville, Mr. Waters?
For adults,
I believe so. Well, this would be for, adults with minor, nonviolent offenses.
I believe wholeheartedly in our juvenile citation program. I believe when you're a kid, you do childish things. When you're an adult, you do adult things, you pay adult prices. So if you get a citation, we have an NTA program. The NTA program is perfect because you get a citation. If it's a criminal citation, you get a court date. If you get an NTA for shoplifting and you have an ID and an address, you get a citation, you get a court date. I think that is the way you hold adults accountable for doing adult things that adults should not and should know better than doing. Juveniles, I understand. Adults, I don't.
Thank you. Ms. Burt?
Thank you. I just want to make a comment from the last comment that he made. It's just absolutely not true that I asked the sheriff for his endorsement. Matter of fact, I haven't asked anybody for the endorsement. And what my opponent don't know is that Mike Williams was getting ready to endorse me before he even went to even ask you to get in the race. But adult civil citations, the public defender and the state attorney have already stated that they would be in favor of an adult civil citation. And I'll tell you, I'll work closely with our judicial partners to explore looking at creating that program for first-time offenders, for nonviolent offenses, victimless crimes, like driving with suspended license. So there's a lot of tangible data out there. There are a lot of other agencies that are utilizing this program, and it has proven great success. But also, there are several benefits to this. There's a cost savings from not having to take somebody to jail. We can alleviate the overcrowding issues that the jail has had for years. But then thirdly, it gives our officers discretion to be able to give somebody a second chance, and I support that. But at the end of the day, if we do create this program, it will come with some serious consequences for those who don't comply with the conditions of the citation. And, you know, my opponent may think that that's soft on crime. I disagree. I think it's being smart on crime.
Mr. Waters?
Sure. So I worked in traffic enforcement for many, many years. We already issue a citation for driving while your license is suspended. We issue a citation. You get a thumbprint, and you go to court. It's not a difficult, and it doesn't cost any more than it costs to give someone a civil citation. I'm just going to say that if you're an adult and you get into a car knowingly with a suspended license and you get stopped by a police officer, you deserve a criminal citation. If you have failure to your peers, you deserve to go to jail and answer to a judge for that. That's our responsibility. These are adults. We're not talking about children. We're talking about full-grown adults. We're talking about people my age, younger, but we're talking about adults. So I think it's very important to realize that we have a citation process in place for driving with suspended license or driving while license suspended. It's a citation. It's a criminal citation where you have to go and you have to appear before a judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burton?
I would just add that I can't count how many times I pulled over somebody and ran their license and they did not know that their license had been suspended, probably for something financial or insurance lapse or something like that. So in those cases, I think it would be appropriate for first-time offenders, nonviolent crimes, victimless crimes, to give them an opportunity.
All right, thank you. Next question, I believe this is for you, Ms. Burton. The budget for JSO is $540 million. How well equipped are you to oversee spending of that magnitude?
So with a budget of over $500 million, our city should be safer, and we're not. What I can guarantee you from me is that I will be accountable to the taxpayers for every single dollar while ensuring that our agency has what it needs to keep our city safe and our officers safe as well. So on day one, I'll meet with our budget chiefs And I'm gonna look at that budget line by line to look at the expenditures, to see where the gaps and see where the waste is, because I wanna make sure that we are spending your money appropriately. But also, I will not ask for one more dollar from the taxpayers without your buy-in. And that doesn't mean you're gonna tell me what to do. What that means is you will know the what, the when, the where, and how we are spending your money. And what I wanna do is close the information gap, because we don't communicate well. So what I'll do as your sheriff is create opportunities so I can have budget workshops, so we can sit down and you can see how we're spending your money. So I had the pleasure of being the executive director over the Police Athletic League, and I managed a multi-million-dollar budget, and every year we were in a surplus. So I tend to take that experience along with working with our budget chiefs, who are the experts, they're CPAs. Every single sheriff depend on that budget for their guidance. So I work with him and our command staff to make sure that we are prudent with spending your money.
Mr. Waters.
Yeah, so as chief of investigations, my budget was $52.8 million. And a large portion of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office budget, and I believe none of us have handled a $500 million budget. But I believe that a large portion, I know that a large portion of our budget is salary and benefits. We have to keep paying our employees. It's very important. When I say large, I'm talking over 80%. So when I say large, we have to continue to pay those employees to keep the best and the brightest in Jacksonville. But there's something else that we have to do, and that's start at the very top. When you're sitting in that position, in that seat, start at the very top and look for waste. And where there's waste, you get rid of the waste and make sure you take care of that. And I want to direct message our public. I want to talk to our public directly. We'll still have news partners. We'll still have that. But I want to talk to our public directly. So I want to create something so that we can give updates. The sheriff can go and sit down and talk to people directly, face to face, and draw you in so you'll understand the good, the bad, the ugly in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Whatever is happening, I want to make sure you'll be able to know that. And that budget process is part of that, because I think it's very important. I've gone all over the city and talked to many people all over the place, and they really don't know that so much of that budget is non-discretionary. Well, it is. The last 15%, we run 3 correctional facilities, and we do so much with it. But it's very important for us to look at that from the top down and make sure that we're spending and we're spending wisely.
Thank you so much. Candidates, we have reached the time for your closing statements, starting with Ms. Burton. And as a reminder, you'll have up to 5 minutes each to close, and then with a 1-minute rebuttal, should you choose to take it. Ms. Burton.
Okay. So by now, it's obvious that my opponent and I see things differently, and we would run the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office differently. What I offer you is a change in perspective, ideology, and leadership. I'll lead from the front. I'll change the culture of this police department from the inside out so that every member will feel valued and have the support from your sheriff. I will cultivate a culture of community policing so we can build trust. Starting on the inside, we need to trust each other. And then we're going to go out in our community and build that trust so we can begin to address violent crime in all parts of our community. But it is a must that we have to focus more on prevention. We have to stop crime before it happens. We can't continue to be reactive. Too many lives are dependent on us. And we will continue to arrest those who commit crimes in this city. I know there are a lot of topics, important topics, that we didn't get a chance to discuss tonight, like the traffic fatalities, our homeless and transient problem, our opioid addiction problem that we have. I'll have a plan to address that. We're working with you. In just 54 days, the voters have a chance to elect a new sheriff. When you go to the polls, I want you to think about this. Ask yourself this question: which candidate has a proven record of reducing crime? I do. Which candidate has the capacity to genuinely bridge the gap and build trust with members of our community, particularly those who have historically had a distrust for police? I've done that. Here's my pledge to you. We will work together to address this violent crime problem once and for all, even if we have to go to every house, on every block, down every street in every single neighborhood. That is the level of commitment that you deserve from your sheriff, and that's what I commit to doing for you as your next sheriff. My name is Lakeisha Burton, and I'm asking for your vote to be your next sheriff so we can make the change that you deserve and what we desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Waters, 5 minutes, sir.
Yes. So my name's TK Waters, and I'm running to be your next sheriff because I care about what goes on in Jacksonville from start to finish. I've seen so many things that take place in this city that are horrifying to families all across this community, and I've worked very hard to do exactly what she described. I've already done it. And we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to strive, continue to work. I think if you go around this community, you ask Gregory A.J. Jordan, you ask Garland Scott, they know the facts. They know that we've been on these streets every single day putting shoe leather to it. We're not talking about talking about fixing the problem. We're talking about actually working the problem. We're not talking about sitting behind the desk at the PAL, building your resume so that you can run for sheriff. We're talking about actually going out, doing the work, knocking on the doors. Listen, you can knock it all you want, but anyone that doesn't understand the impact of going to a door where a young man walks up with a bullet hole in his body and he's about to lose his arm, or I go to the hospital and see an 18-year-old young man who has 7 shots in his body from an AK-47, and I beg him to change his life. Down at how you can say whatever you want to say about it. What I'm telling you is that is important, hard work. It goes right to the heart of the matter. Every week, I sit down and we study what goes on in this city. Every week, we deploy manpower to go deal with it. That percentage drop that we heard so much about took place because the men and women of this agency went and did that work. We saw the problem rising, and so we sent the manpower there. We saw the problem rising in zone 4, so we sent the manpower there. We see the problem rising in the city, but you know what's amazing? What's amazing is in 2021, we saw an overall reduction in violent crime and crime in the entire city of Jacksonville. I'll tell you this much, you give me the opportunity to serve you, I won't sit down, I won't rest on my laurels, I won't give you platitudes, I won't give you sayings, I won't give you any of that stuff. What I'm gonna give you is hard work. I'm gonna give you every single day that I've got. That phone won't turn off. You call me, you need me, I'm there. Every single second, every single minute of the day. I can guarantee you that. And if you trust me enough to be your next sheriff, I can promise you this much. I will reach out to every member of this community. I will talk to every member of this community that wants to talk, and we'll work through issues together, because that's the only way we can get this done. Thank you so much. TK Waters for sheriff. On November 8th, 2022, I want you to be proud to call TK Waters your next sheriff. Thank you.
Lakeisha Burton, you would have 1 minute should you choose to take it.
I was hoping he would bring up that 16% reduction. I almost chuckled. He keeps saying that he's done it. It's been 7 years. I haven't seen it. Last year, after decades of violent crime on the rise, our city saw a 4% reduction citywide. In my zone, under my leadership, we had a historic reduction in crime, and y'all know the percentage. Something happened in Zone 2 that didn't happen anywhere else in the city. So my 2 questions from my opponent is, since he wants to take credit for what the men and women did in Zone 2, why didn't he do it the last 7 years? And then if he reduced that crime, why didn't he do it all over our city? That's what we need. He don't deserve another 4 years of this. I'll be your sheriff and I'll get the job done. Just look at my track record. It's not what you say, it's what you're doing, what you do. And that 16% I talk about is more than just a number. That number is reflected in our crime analysis data, but most importantly, it's reflected in the people's lives that we served. And when citizens say, Chief Burton, we feel safer in our community because of what you and your officers have done. I've done my job.
TK Waters, you have 1 minute, sir.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I think if you know anything about me, I hope that you understand and you know the passion that I have for this community. And you know, it's easy to sit back, and I didn't even bring up that number. I said a percentage. But it's important to recognize that none of us can accomplish any of this on our own. It takes a team, a group effort working together to make sure that we can solve issues. That means the community, that means every agent, every department in our agency. That's what that means, working together to solve problems. And we'll continue to do that, and guess what we'll do? We'll do it with your help. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both. That's our time for tonight. I'd like to thank everyone in our studio audience and watching online for joining us. And I'd also like to thank the Jacksonville Bar Association for partnering with us to present this debate. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank our two candidates for participating tonight and for serving our community for so many years.
Thank you.
Let's give them a hand, please. Thank you all, and have a good night. Thank you.